5 motorcycle brands just lost over $2 billion in combined market value. And if you're riding one of these machines, your investment just evaporated. Industry tracking shows these once premium manufacturers are now selling bikes at prices that would have been considered clearance level just 24 months ago. Company spokespeople kept talking about market leadership and brand strength, but the numbers reveal a complete consumer revolt. Resale values have collapsed so dramatically that some models are worth less than half their original purchase price. Dealers are sitting on 18-month-old inventory they can't move, even with financing incentives that border on desperation. In this video, I will expose which 5 motorcycle brands destroyed their own value proposition, why loyal customers are fleeing to competitors, and what this means for anyone considering a motorcycle purchase. The final brand's collapse is so complete, it represents the end of an era in American motorcycling. Stay until the end. This revelation will change everything you thought you knew about motorcycle brands. Number 5. Ducati. Ducati's once untouchable brand prestige is eroding rapidly, especially across their mid-range models. The Italian manufacturer's expansion into what they called accessible luxury has severely diluted the exclusive mystique that once made Ducati ownership a status symbol. Monster and mid-tier Panigale models are now flooding used markets as owners either upgrade to truly premium models or exit motorcycle ownership entirely. Dealer reports reveal a disturbing trend. Models that once sold within weeks of hitting showroom floors now sit for 8 to 12 months of inventory cycles. A Southern California Ducati dealer told me they used to have waiting lists for every new monster. Now those bikes sit in rows, gathering dust, even with significant discounting. The financial reality for Ducati owners has become increasingly harsh. Maintenance cost analysis shows annual ownership expenses exceeding $3,000 for most models, driving casual buyers away from the brand entirely. Insurance data shows a 40 to 60% increase for Ducati models over 2 years, making them prohibitively expensive to maintain for many enthusiasts. The resale value tracking is perhaps most alarming. Motorcycles that sold new for $15,000 just 3 years ago are now struggling to fetch $8,000 in pristine condition. That represents a devastating financial loss for owners who believed they were making a premium investment. Market saturation evidence is overwhelming. Classified ad analysis shows a 300% increase in available Ducati inventory compared to 2022 levels. Auction house data consistently reveals Ducati's failing to meet reserve prices, with some high-end models selling for less than half their original MSRP. Dealer incentive programs now offer unprecedented discounts simply to move aging stock, with some offering 0% financing for 60 months, a sign of desperation that would have been unthinkable for a premium brand like Ducati just a few years ago. Number 4. Zero motorcycles. The electric motorcycle dream has stalled dramatically for Zero motorcycles, once hailed as the Tesla of the motorcycle world. The promise versus reality gap has become impossible to ignore. Range anxiety data shows real-world performance falling 30 to 40% short of marketing claims, creating frustration among owners who paid premium prices for what turns out to be limited practicality. Charging infrastructure limitations have created practical ownership nightmares for most riders, with many reporting they cannot complete weekend rides without elaborate planning around charging locations. Premium pricing analysis reveals $25,000 plus entry points for technology that many riders increasingly view as still experimental rather than proven. The early adopter exodus is particularly telling. Resale tracking shows catastrophic 50 to 70% value losses for 2 to 3-year-old Zero models, far worse than comparable gas-powered motorcycles. Owner testimonials reveal unexpected maintenance costs and growing battery replacement fears, with many facing $10,000 plus battery replacement costs just as warranties expire. Dealer reports confirm customers are trading electric bikes back to gas models within 18 months of purchase, citing practical limitations that were not apparent during test rides. One former Zero owner said they bought into the future, but the future is not ready yet. They could not take the range anxiety anymore, and they were getting laughed at by riding groups when they had to constantly plan around charging. Competition is crushing Zero from multiple directions. Traditional manufacturers are launching electric models at lower price points, with vastly better dealer networks for service and support. Tesla and the broader automotive industry have created consumer expectations regarding range, charging speed, and app integration that Zero simply cannot meet with their current technology. Government incentive changes have further reduced the financial appeal of electric motorcycle ownership, eliminating much of the cost advantage that helped justify their premium pricing. Zero's financial situation appears increasingly precarious, with industry analysts estimating the company has burned through over $250 million in venture capital without achieving profitability. As one industry consultant put it, Zero bet everything on being first to market, but they are discovering that being first does not matter if the product cannot deliver on the fundamental promise of convenient transportation. Number 3. Royal Enfield. Royal Enfield's rapid value depreciation in the used market represents one of the most dramatic reversals in motorcycle industry history. The retro bubble has burst spectacularly, leaving Royal Enfield stranded with a product line heavily invested in a vintage aesthetic trend that peaked and crashed. Quality perception issues have mounted as riders discovered the gap between modern reliability expectations and retro styling reality. Many bikes look classic because they perform like classics too, complete with oil leaks and electrical gremlins. A severe demographic mismatch has emerged between Royal Enfield's target hipster market and actual motorcycle buying power, with many potential customers opting for style-conscious alternatives that offer better performance and reliability. Industry data shows the average Royal Enfield buyer's age has increased by 12 years since 2018, suggesting the brand is failing to connect with younger riders despite its retro-cool marketing. The oversupply catastrophe cannot be overstated. Retail expansion data shows dealer network growth outpacing actual demand by an astonishing 400%. New bike inventory flooding used markets, as dealers desperately clear floor space, has created a situation where used Royal Enfields sell for as little as 40% of their already modest MSRP. Import volume analysis reveals massive overestimation of American market appetite, with some warehouse facilities reportedly holding hundreds of unsold units. The ownership cost awakening has been particularly harsh for budget-conscious buyers attracted to Royal Enfield's relatively low entry price. Maintenance frequency data shows higher than expected service requirements, with some models requiring dealer attention every 2,000 miles. Parts availability concerns have created long-term ownership anxiety among buyers, with some reporting weeks-long waits for basic components. Insurance classification issues have made Royal Enfield more expensive to insure than comparable bikes from Japanese manufacturers, further eroding their value proposition. One insurance industry source explained, Royal Enfields get classified as higher risk because their safety features and braking performance lag behind contemporary standards, despite their moderate power output. The brand's rapid U.S. expansion now appears to have been built on shifting sand. As one former dealer who recently dropped the line told me, they position themselves as authentic alternatives to Triumph at half the price, but customers quickly realize you get what you pay for. The romance of owning a retro bike evaporates the first time you're stranded on the side of the road. Suzuki's street bike lineup is experiencing a value collapse, driven primarily by innovation stagnation. Technology comparison shows Suzuki falling 5 to 7 years behind competitors in electronics and features, with many models still lacking rider aids that have become standard on competing brands. Design analysis reveals conservative styling that no longer appeals to younger demographics, creating an aging customer base without replacement buyers. Performance benchmarks show once competitive models now trailing significantly behind rivals. The GSX-R line, once the gold standard for sport bikes, now routinely finishes last in comparison tests against equivalent models from Yamaha, Honda, and Kawasaki. Power-to-weight ratios, electronic sophistication, and component quality all show Suzuki falling behind the competition at an accelerating rate. Inventory pressure is increasing across the dealer network. Reports show GSX and SV models sitting for 12-plus months, despite deep discounting that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. Sales incentive analysis reveals unprecedented manufacturer rebates and dealer cash programs, with some dealers reporting factory support of up to $2,500 per unit just to move aging inventory. Service department data shows declining customer loyalty as riders switch to other brands, with warranty work now accounting for a higher percentage of service bay time than customer-paid maintenance, a key indicator of deteriorating brand health. As one multi-line dealer explained, "Suzuki used to be our bread and butter. Now we keep them as a value option, but our floor traffic and profit comes from other brands." The brand identity crisis is particularly acute for Suzuki. Market positioning confusion, as the company struggles between budget and performance categories, has left consumers uncertain about what Suzuki actually stands for in today's market. Marketing message inconsistency has created consumer uncertainty about the brand's direction, with some ads emphasizing value while others attempt to position certain models as premium performance options. Loyalist interviews reveal longtime customers feeling abandoned by corporate decisions that seem increasingly focused on cost-cutting rather than innovation. One 20-year Suzuki owner told me, "I have owned 5 GSX-Rs since 2001, but my last one will be my last Suzuki. They have not meaningfully updated the platform in a decade, while everyone else has moved forward. It is like they just gave up." Industry analyst reports suggest Suzuki may be considering a significant reduction in their motorcycle model range, potentially exiting certain segments entirely as they focus on more profitable markets like India and Southeast Asia. North American sales have reportedly fallen by over 60% from their peak, creating questions about the brand's long-term viability in the US market. Number 1. Victory Motorcycles. The fall of Victory Motorcycles represents the most complete brand collapse in recent motorcycle industry history. America's answer to Harley-Davidson now exists only in memory and dwindling parts inventories. Historical analysis shows how Polaris positioned the brand as a modern, performance-oriented alternative to Harley-Davidson's traditional approach. The production shutdown timeline reveals how quickly an American icon can disappear, with Polaris pulling the plug in 2017 after 18 years of investment. The cultural impact cannot be overstated. Victory represented American engineering prowess and design innovation, values that resonated deeply with riders seeking domestic alternatives to Harley-Davidson's increasingly heritage-focused approach. That option has now completely vanished from the market. The resale apocalypse for Victory owners has been brutal and unrelenting. Value tracking shows catastrophic 70 to 80% depreciation since production ended, with even low mileage premium models struggling to sell for a quarter of their original MSRP. The parts availability crisis has created long-term ownership nightmares for existing riders, with some reporting basic maintenance components becoming unobtainable despite Polaris's promises of continued parts support. The dealer network collapse has left Victory owners stranded without service support in many regions, forcing them to rely on independent mechanics unfamiliar with the brand's unique engineering. A former Victory dealer recalled that they supported their Victory customers as long as they could. But eventually, the parts supply dried up and they had to tell loyal customers they could not help them anymore. It was heartbreaking. The broader industry. Warning from Victory's failure is impossible to ignore. Financial analysis shows how an estimated $2 billion of Polaris investment evaporated completely, representing one of the most expensive failed motorcycle ventures in history. The market lesson about American consumers' actual loyalty to domestic motorcycle brands has been harsh. When faced with resale value collapse and support network erosion, even the most patriotic riders abandon ship. Prediction models developed from Victory's collapse show alarming similarities to challenges facing several current manufacturers, raising questions about which brands might be next to face extinction. The cultural reckoning continues as demographic data proves American motorcycle culture is fundamentally changing, with traditional values of brand loyalty giving way to practical considerations of value retention and support network stability. Economic analysis confirms recreational vehicle markets are permanently altered by post-pandemic priorities and rising ownership costs. The future outlook for domestic motorcycle manufacturing in an import-dominated landscape appears increasingly bleak, with analysts questioning whether any American motorcycle brand besides Harley-Davidson can achieve sustainable scale and profitability. Former Victory executive James Thompson reflected that they built fantastic motorcycles that customers loved riding. What they could not build was a brand with enough cultural gravity to survive economic downturns and changing consumer preferences. The lesson for other manufacturers is harsh but clear. Engineering excellence alone is not enough. This industry collapse has created a new market reality with both opportunities and dangers for every motorcycle enthusiast. A buyer's market analysis shows unprecedented chances for smart shoppers willing to purchase affected brands at 40 to 60% discounts, particularly if they plan to keep the bikes long-term and are not concerned about future resale value. For current owners, this represents a seller's nightmare scenario. The actionable advice is clear. Cut losses quickly if you own one of these declining brands and are concerned about further value erosion. Waiting even 6 months could cost thousands in additional depreciation as this market contraction accelerates. From an investment perspective, the data suggests only a few motorcycle categories might survive the ongoing shakeout. Premium European brands with strong heritage credentials, Japanese manufacturers with diverse global markets, and certain American niche producers appear most likely to maintain value stability. Everything in between faces increasing pressure from both market forces and changing consumer preferences. Industry transformation predictions point towards significant manufacturer consolidation as weaker brands face extinction in the coming 24 to 36 months. Dealer network evolution appears inevitable as traditional showrooms become economically unsustainable, with many industry insiders predicting a 30 to 40% reduction in physical dealerships by 2027. Cultural shift analysis confirms motorcycle ownership is becoming increasingly niche rather than mainstream, with the total U.S. rider population potentially decreasing by up to 25% over the next decade, despite population growth. The implications for manufacturing scale, parts availability, and service support are profound. For those considering a motorcycle purchase, the actionable intelligence is clear. Now represents an unprecedented buying opportunity for certain brands if you understand the risks. Exit strategy recommendations for owners of affected brands suggest that trading to more stable manufacturers before values decline further. The long-term market outlook indicates a smaller but potentially more passionate motorcycle community focused on brands that deliver authentic experiences rather than mass market appeal. Industry consultant David Ramirez summarizes the situation. We are witnessing a fundamental restructuring of the motorcycle market. The winners will be brands that understand they are selling experiences and lifestyle, not just transportation. The losers will be those that failed to build genuine connections with their customers beyond the initial sale. The motorcycle industry stands at a crossroads. For consumers, understanding these market dynamics is the difference between making an informed purchase and watching thousands of dollars evaporate through depreciation. For manufacturers, it represents perhaps the last opportunity to adapt before market forces render certain business models completely obsolete. The 5 brands we have examined represent cautionary tales of what happens when manufacturers lose touch with evolving consumer values. Their combined market value loss exceeds $2 billion, but the true cost in lost jobs, shuttered dealerships, and stranded customers is incalculable. The question now is whether the remaining players can learn from these failures before they face similar fates. The motorcycle is not dying, but the industry as we have known it is transforming before our eyes. The motorcycle industry is undergoing a seismic shift that will permanently alter which brands survive and which disappear. What we are witnessing is not just a market correction, it is a fundamental revaluation of what motorcycles mean in today's world. These 5 brands collectively lost billions in market value because they failed to adapt to changing rider priorities. Think about what this means for your next purchase, or the bike sitting in your garage right now. Are you holding an appreciating classic or a depreciating liability? The brands you have trusted for years might not exist a decade from now. Do you own one of these struggling brands? Are you seeing the same value collapse in your area? Share your experience and your predictions on which manufacturer might be next to fall. Subscribe now. This industry transformation is just beginning, and you will not want to miss what happens next.